Okay, howdy, folks. So, as promised on my Instagram profile, I mentioned I would be doing a video on explaining the Camelot wheel for DJs in specific. So, to the right of me on the screen, you can see the Camelot wheel. And below that, it says A equals minor key and B equals major key. So those are two important things to remember as I go through explaining the wheel. So as you can see, we have the outer circle, which is numbered from 1 through to 12, and that is the B, which is the major key. And then on the inner circle, we've got 1 through to 12, and that is A, which is the minor key. Now, you can also see numbered from 1 to 12 that you've got like B major, E, sharp major, and so on and so on. I basically want you to ignore that because that is not relevant to the purpose of this video for using the Camelot wheel in a harmonic mixing for DJs. So I'm not going to go to any depth whatsoever about that. That is more relevant if this video was geared towards more musicians, but it's not. So therefore we are just going to basically be sticking to the minor and major keys when it comes to harmonic mixing. So the basics are, for music theory, basic music theory, the A's that you see on the inner circle, numbered from 1 to 12, are all your minor keys. Minor keys are tracks that would be considered somber, sad, down tempo, ambient sort of music to it that has it could have a very a low BPM, like let's say 90 BPM, or it could have a higher BPM, such as 120 or 122 BPM. But the minor aspect of it is it's a sad, somber, down tempo, slow sort of track. The major key is more your upbeat, boppy, sort of faster tracks, the melodic vocals, so we've got things like techno and excuse me, just lost my train of thought there for a minute. Words escape me. Genres escaping me at the moment. But, to make it simple, the major keys are basically your upbeat, happy, boppy sort of songs that have a bit more of a faster BPM. So as the video goes through, I'll explain why that it is relevant to know that. So on the diagram, I've drawn the red arrows, which you can clearly see. And I'm going to give an explanation of what these arrows mean and how they work when it comes to harmonic mixing and using minor and major keys. So let's say, for example, you have a track that is sitting in the key of 5A. And your next track is sitting in, let's say, 7B, for instance. So with melodic mixing, harmonic mixing, you want to mix in a way that it sounds harmonically well blended to suit the track. So your first track is in 5A and your second track is in 7B. But with the diagram, the way I've drawn it, and I'm just about to explain, it would not work well going into 7B in harmonic mixing. Your track is sitting in 5A. You have 1, 2, 3, 4 choices of the key you can put your next track in. You can go from 5A to 5B, 6B, 4B, or 11A. Now I'll explain why that's important. If you're going to change your track from a 5A to, let's say, a 5B, that would be perfectly matched harmonically in that different key. Same in the 6B or the 4B or the 11A, perfectly matched perfectly. If your track was sitting in 7A, you could change the key to 7B, 9B, 6B, or 1A. It is the same method all the way around the Camelot wheel. There's 3 arrows that you see pointing from 5A into 5B, into 6B, into 4B, and then the extra arrow into 1A is the diagram that would be used sitting anywhere within the Camelot wheel. I'll give you another example. Say we have a track sitting in 2B, which is a major key, and you want to change that key. You could then go into a 2A, a 1B, 3B, or you can go into a 9B. So it's just a matter of using that simple diagram of the arrows and understanding where you can move to within harmonic mixing, harmonic mixing, and keep using that diagram all the way around that wheel. Now, when I've seen some teachings out there about the Camelot wheel, an error I have picked up that some people are teaching is going from, when changing a key, is going from 5A into either 4A or 6A. Please don't do that. It's not correct. It's not the right way of harmonic mixing. It is simply the diagram that you see here and the way I explained it that will allow you to perfectly harmonically mix your tracks together. So again, do not go from 5A into 4A or 6A, because it's not how the Camelot wheel works when it comes to mixing harmonically for DJs. It would be the same as if you had a track in 8A and you try to go into 9A or 7A. No, we have to use the diagram there that is available, that you see on the screen. So if we were if we had a track sitting in 8A and we wanted to change the key, we would either go into 9B, 7B, my mistake, 8B, 7B, or 9B from 8A, or we would go to 2A. So the reason why you wouldn't go over to the 2B out of an 8A is because that track that you want to change the key in is sitting in A, which is a minor key. And then if you change it over to a 2B, it becomes a major key. And I understand how that makes sense to some because we have the options to go into major keys here. It's just that it's not going to melodically mix well together. And this is something you don't need to know. It's because of the key that it'd be moving into an E sharp major, which might change the track drastically. Whereas if you follow the diagram, it means that any one of those that you choose will be perfectly harmonically blended. That's the reason why we use this diagram to display what would be acceptable to move into when it comes to harmonic mixing. And if you move outside of that diagram, it's not going to sound so great. Now, I want to just talk a little bit about a bit more about minor and major keys. Minor tracks, so let's use a few examples here. I'll use Amy Winehouse as an example for this. So Amy Winehouse's Back to Black. Say you had a remix of that, which there are remixes out there of that song. Now, it's quite a somber song. It has quite a beat to it, but it's still quite a somber song, the meaning behind it. So it sits in a minor key. Now, it doesn't mean that you can't change it to a major key, which is a bit more upbeat, a bit more boppier, sort of something that you could dance get a bit of speed up to. But it is still a song that sits in a minor key. Now, it can be changed to a major key, so say it was sitting in 2A, you could change it to a major key, such as 2B, 1B, or 3B, or 9A. It's just about that you're changing it between keys of being minor and major, and that's the simplest explanation of a minor and a major key track-wise I can give you. But if you took a song from Amy Winehouse, say Valerie is a very upbeat, poppy, fast-paced sort of song. So that sits in a major key, which is fine because it's suitable. Most tracks that are produced and finished being mastered, will be finished mastered in a specific key. And we're only sticking to minor and major keys here. We're not going to the type of keys, we're just sticking to minor and major. So it'll be mastered finished in a key, which will either be minor or it will either be major. The reason that's important to know is because, let's say, for example, you have a complete set up in your software, whatever you use, Rekordbox, Serato, are the two main popular ones. Doesn't matter either or. Let's say you have a set in your software, and if you if you have a prepared set, you can go and look at this later. Look at your set and look at each track and look at what keys each track is sitting in, and try and get an overall picture of the predominant key that the whole set is sitting in. So, for example, you may have a set that's predominantly in minor keys. So, you wouldn't want to go and change your whole entire set to all major keys. There's a pattern there that you can hopefully see by looking at your keys, and they're mostly A's. So you want to stay as much as you can in minor key. However, if we tried to keep everything in minor key, it would be pretty hard using the Camelot wheel to just stay in minor. So this is where it comes in with practice and time and understanding the Camelot wheel and experimenting. A whole lot of experimenting, a whole lot of understanding how the Camelot wheel works within minor and major keys. That's the best way to do it because it's the way I learnt. It is the only way for me to have learnt. But I had to understand the actual wheel and how that worked, the basics, and then branch out from there and experiment once I really understood the basics. You'll get to a point where you would have looked at the Camelot wheel so much that it'll be just memorized in your mind. Like you won't even have to look at the diagram because you'll just remember. The brain has a magnificent way of just having memory. But there's no problem if you need to refer to the wheel. You don't need to memorize it, but eventually it'll just be like second nature to you. And the more you practice and the more you get experience. So yes, a bit of a divergence there. Now, not every DJ mixes harmonically. In fact, some DJs don't use the Camelot wheel at all. What I will say though, for me, is I learnt about it because I'm going into producing, and if you're going to be a producer, it's essential that you have music theory knowledge as a producer. Unless you're just going to use AI and get everything done for you, well, forget it. I don't use AI whatsoever. I'm a creative and I don't need a robot telling me how to create something. However, if you're going to be a serious producer and not use AI, then it is essential for you to understand music theory. And even AI makes mistakes, believe it or not. So it is still, I believe, essential for you to know. Now, say we have a track that's sitting in 5B. How would we use the arrow diagram to melodically, so it melodically sounds fine, but how would we use it to harmonically mix? If we have a track sitting in 5B and our next track is sitting in, let's say, 3B, that's not going to work very well. It's not melodically going to sound great, and the harmonics will not be on point. So what key would we put our next track in instead of it being a 3B using the diagram? Because 5B into 3B doesn't work very well. So we would have the option of moving it either into 5A, 5B, 4B, or 11B. See, there it's not going into 11A because the track is sitting in a B. It's sitting in a major key. Well, then we would prefer that it went into a major key. So to harmonically blend that next track in perfectly, we would change it from, we got a 5B, so then we got a 3B there. Where would be a great place to change that into using the diagram? We'd get as close as we possibly could to that 5B. So then, if it's a 3B, we would change it from 5B into either 4B, 6B, 5A, or 11B. You see, so we're staying within the keys, and that's pretty much as straightforward as I can put it. I'll give you another example. Say we have a track sitting in 12B and our next track is sitting in 9B. We could leave that track in 12B if we wish, but what would be acceptable to have it harmonically blended well for us to mix our set perfectly? So we could move, using the diagram, we could move to a 12A, an 11B, a 1B, or a 6B. Do you see how the diagram of the arrows move around? And so it would pretty much be, going through your whole set from start to finish, looking at each key that the track is sitting in, using the diagram, using the Camelot wheel, but using the arrow diagram to see which key you're going to put each track into. Now, the keys you choose to put your tracks into is a personal choice. Nobody can tell you, I can't tell you what key to put what in. It's using the Camelot wheel and using the diagram to choose what key you're going to be mixing into. But if you forget the diagram of the arrows and just pick anywhere on the board the Camelot wheel to put your track into, you're not harmonically mixing. It's not going to blend in harmony. So you have to pretty much use the diagram of the arrows, start to learn and understand your Camelot wheel in its very basics. So the important things to really grasp and learn about the Camelot wheel for harmonic mixing for DJing is understand that it's from numbers 1 to 12 in your inner and outer circles. Understand a minor key and a major key and what the difference is of that minor and major key. And then using that model, you start to learn how to melodically make your whole set sound amazing and learn how to harmonic mix properly. So when I first started DJing, I knew nothing about the Camelot wheel. I didn't even know it existed. I knew nothing about harmonically mixing. In fact, I didn't harmonically mix at all. I chose my tracks, I prepared a set, and I played. Um, the only reason I decided to get into harmonic mixing for me was because at some point in my career, I decided I was going to go into producing and felt that it would be completely necessary for me to understand more music theory, because that is going to really help you quite a lot if you choose to move into producing. However, if you just want to stay doing DJing, fine, no problem. You do not have to learn how to harmonic mix if you don't want to. It is just another skill to have under your belt, whether you choose to do it or whether you choose not to do it. So, if you want to start learning about the harmonic wheel, this is a really great diagram to display it. But you can find the Camelot wheel anywhere online. Just simply type into Google the Camelot wheel and get your own version of it that suits you and that you can read well. You can get ones that don't have the E major and symbols and all the different keys in there. That they simply just have the 1 through to the 12 on both the inner and outer circles. That might make it more simpler for you, or you can get one with the keys. But the different keys make no it's there's no real expectation for a DJ to have an understanding of all the different keys, but you do need to understand minor and major, the difference between a minor and major key, and what where that's situated within the Camelot wheel. So it takes a lot of practice, studying the Camelot wheel and getting an understanding around the Camelot wheel and experimenting. What I recommend is, if you go to your software, whatever you use, Recordbox or Serato, you get a setup that you already have that you like, and take 5 songs from that set and just mix without changing any of the keys. Just mix 5 songs together and record it, and then take the same set with the same 5 tracks and put it into key using the Camelot wheel. Now, if you do change the key in your tracks, I recommend writing down the original key that the 5 tracks are in, because you might want to go back and change it later. And I don't think Recordbox or Serato store that information for you. The only way you could find out what key it was in, if you don't write it down, is to go back to your original track, either where you purchased it from or within where it's actually stored on the file folder in your laptop where you store your music, and see if it has the key in there. But for simplicity and to save time, I recommend that you write down the key just in case you want to change it back. So change your keys using the Camelot wheel and what I've described here, and then mix that and record it. And once that's done, listen to the difference in both the set that's not been harmonically mixed and the set that has been harmonically mixed. And hopefully by now your ear is trained enough to be able to pick up the difference between the sets. And then it's a really great way of learning how to use the Camelot wheel, and how the difference between minor and major keys, and also just being able to train your ear to hear the difference as well in harmonic mixing and not harmonic mixing. And it's, of course, have fun while you're doing it as well. It's always about having fun too. It's not all, everything doesn't need to be so serious all the time. So, yes, that's what I recommend doing. Another point I want to make is that remember that BPMs, beats per minute, are not the same as keys. You're not going to change, by changing a key of a track, you're not changing the BPM. The BPM stays the same. The BPM only changes if you're manipulating that BPM, the tempo, when you're actually doing the mix, or you're actively going inside your software and you're changing the BPM within your software. But changing a key of a track prior to mixing it does not change the BPM. That's something I want you to remember as well. So if we have a track that's sitting in 5B and we're gonna change it to, let's say, 11B, that's fine because it's perfectly harmonically mixed, but you're not changing your BPM. You're not changing the tempo of the song. So that's something to remember. It's okay to move from, let's say, like the example I took before of Back to Black and Valerie. Back to Black being in a minor key and Valerie being in a major key. It's okay to change a track from that is sits in minor to a major. It's not going to change the tempo of the track. It's about harmonic mixing, and tempo is a completely different thing. So I think that's basically the crux of it, and the simplicity of learning about the Camelot wheel and harmonic mixing. So I hope you found this video helpful. If you have any questions, please feel free to put them in the comments. I'm no expert, but I'll help where I can. Also, if you just would love to leave me some feedback and subscribe to my channel for future videos, you'll be notified, obviously, when I put a new video up. I also do post mixes sometimes to my channel and other things. So again, you'll be notified if you subscribe, and it helps my channel out greatly. If you found this useful and know somebody else that will benefit around, pay it forward, share it with other DJs that might be interested in something like this. And yeah, just some feedback if you want to offer feedback on the usefulness of the video, and whack your questions in the comments. That's about it. Happy mixing, play around, have fun, enjoy, and I hope you learn to get to use a new skill. See ya.